Eagles Talk A2D Radio. The playoffs are here. We are the 2 seed, as we all knew we would be, but now we know who we are facing, the Packers. We will talk about that. We will talk about the Eagles. How prepared are they as they go into the playoffs? And we'll preview the matchup with the Packers as well. I guess we'll talk a little bit about the game that happened against the Giants a little bit and Tanner McKee. So we'll dive into that. We'll get into other stuff too. So Eagles Talk, you know it. Let's go. Let's get it.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
Eagles Talk on A2D Radio. We are brought to you by Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Make sure you mention A2D Radio. Get 10% off your in-store purchase. We are live. It's your boy Chucks. It's Brinks, PY, and Les coming and joining us at the top of the show. Gentlemen, how you feeling?
Cold.
Yeah, feeling great. Feeling great.
Wow.
Feeling confident, feeling great. Like we've been kind of in this like lull because we all knew we were going to be in the playoffs. That hasn't been in question for weeks, maybe months, but now it's time to close and it's exciting and I'm pumped.
Yeah, exciting. PY, I'm not surprised you're still cold. If you guys didn't know, PY went to the game. I told him, I'm like, it's gonna be freezing, bro. And he was sending us pics and videos, and you could tell on his face. His face was like frozen. I'm like,
ironically, I was colder today, shoveling snow off cars at my job, rather than yesterday.
God bless you. I do not miss that about being in the auto industry at all.
Yeah, I've never been in the auto industry, so I don't have to worry about that. So,
I'm literally still in uniform.
Oh my God. Well, appreciate you. I'm glad you're warming up. So the Eagles are warming up as we get into the playoffs. So we asked the question in our poll. There are no glaring concerns over this Eagles team as they head into the playoffs. Agree or disagree? Les, let's lead off with you. What do you think? Do you have any glaring major concerns over this team and this roster as we get into the wild card round?
Well, glaring is the big word there. No, I can't say there are glaring concerns going into, it. My hobby horse, as you know, is the edge rush still. They finished the season. Their sacks leader is Josh Sweat with 8, which isn't a big number. If I foresee them having problems in a game, it's that they're not getting pressure on the opposing passer. I think that's the biggest thing that I could see them having problems with, other than injuries or something. But as glaring, that's not glaring. I mean, they do a good enough job with the inside guys pushing the pocket. It's not like they never get a sack or never get pressure. I can't say it's glaring. It's something that's in the back of my mind. But that's what's really interesting and different about this team is that I think every other time they've gone into the postseason, there was something that you could look at and say, oh, boy, that's not great. But I don't see it. Even 2022, the defense had all these great rankings. But we all knew that whenever they played a good quarterback, which wasn't very often that year, that they had trouble, And we weren't shocked in the Super Bowl when they had trouble. I'd be kind of shocked if they were giving up 30-something to a team in the playoffs this year, without turning the ball over a lot or something like that. I think, I do not see a glaring weakness, frankly.
Brinks, what do you think?
Well, it's tough because the elephant in the room right now is Jalen Hurts has still not cleared concussion protocol.
Yeah,
so is that semantics? Is that gamesmanship? I don't know. I would like to see them come out for, I guess, what they're going to practice on Wednesday for the first time, Wes. Is that usually how it works?
Yeah.
So I would like him to come out on Wednesday to be a full participant in practice, no sweat, even though I do think that either one of the backups will be able to beat the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. As you advance, you're going to need. Yeah, I'm very confident, no matter who's quarterbacked against the Green Bay Packers. But you are going to need a healthy Jalen Hurts moving forward past the Green Bay Packers. But assuming Jalen's health and he clears his concussion protocol, like, where is this team weak? Howie has done a fantastic job building a bomb squad roster. You have a great O-line. You have a great receiver duo. You have a franchise quarterback. You have a 2,000-yard rusher. And I'm not sure how they finished stat-wise, but it's no question a top-5 defense, even with the edge rush, I guess, concerns. Like, so, no, there's no – they're the most complete football team in the National Football League. Does that guarantee a Super Bowl championship? No. But they are the most complete team in the NFL, in my opinion. So absolutely not. There are no glaring needs on this football team.
What about you, PY? What did you say?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. There's not really anything that like jumps out at you. Like you have a top 10 quarterback. You have obviously the best rusher in football this year. You have a top 5 O-line or the best O-line in football. You have an okay pass rush. Like, obviously, you'd like to have a few more guys closer to 10 or even one guy in 10. Mm-hmm. But, that's serviceable. You have the best secondary in football right now, which crazy to say that considering how we started the season. I think you have a really good head coach, obviously good GM, like everything you need that has set this team up to be a Super Bowl team. Like, I think the biggest concern you could argue is Elliott, but like he made 2 of his 3 kicks on Sunday, and one of them, the wind was blaring. It's like 20 degrees out, and I could be like, okay, I can understand how you may have missed that. So like, if the biggest thing heading into Sunday against a really good Packers team is maybe your kicker is your weakest link, you are setting yourself up very well to go into on a deep playoff run. Like,
oh, you were finished? I didn't know if you were finished.
Cut out? Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm like, oh, okay. No, I think it's going to be unanimous. I agree to the poll as well. I don't see any glaring concerns. The concussion thing with Jalen Hurts, yeah, it's something to take note of. I did listen to Ruben Frank. He was on, I forget what show it was. He's on, but like he was saying that like Jalen looks fine. He's not wearing any sunglasses. He can't talk to media because of the protocol, but according to Ruben Frank, like there's no worry. The expectation is that he will practice on Wednesday and he'll eventually clear it. So the sentiment says and everyone expects it to happen. So I wouldn't worry about that. The pass rush issue. Yeah, I mean, like it's more of like committee and more by like, pressure, which I get, but like, again, it's not a glaring weakness because when you have a secondary that is lights out like they are,
right,
they complement each other. Right. So that's fine. I mean, like,
and you can also blitz more effectively than Eagles teams have in recent years.
Yeah.
They have linebackers who can actually get there, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, again, the keyword is glaring. You guys know I'm very meticulous in how I do these poll questions. Glaring concerns, no. I don't think any glaring concerns. I think that if we were to now shift the conversation, what is your and Habib actually asked this, so it's a good question. Habib 215, he says, I'm nervous about this game. What is your confidence level? So I'll go around the horn again. Brinks, will start with you, and then Les, and then PY because he's out right now. So we'll get back to him. But Brinks, 1 to 10, and I know you use into that confidence. So 1 to 10, what's your confidence level?
Yeah, I'm at like a 12 out of 10. I don't see this being a problem. I don't know why Habib is nervous. Perhaps he can touch back in on the comments and give us a couple bullet points on why you're nervous or why you're scared of this edition of the Green Bay Packers. I don't get it. Really, the only playmaker they have on the outside that gives their offense some zing and pep is Christian Watson, who drops the ball half the time anyway, but he tore his ACL yesterday against the Bears. He's not going to be able to play. I don't see a game plan where you hand the ball to Josh Jacobs 30 times being an effective game plan to victory against this Philadelphia Eagles defense. Jair Alexander, their best corner, he's not going to play. He has a knee injury. He's out at least for this wild card round. We'll see what happens if they advance, but I don't think they're going to. And Jordan Love, I mean, I picked the Packers to win the Super Bowl preseason. So, like, I hear you. I thought Jordan Love was going to make this just this huge jump into stardom in the NFL based on how last season ended. CJ Stroud as well. And Jordan Love he hasn't done it. Like, he's not consistent. Look, the Packers have played 5 teams. They played the big 5, the big 3 in the NFC 5 times. They're 0-5. Obviously, they lost to the Eagles in week 1 in Brazil, and they were also swept by the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
I just don't see that they're not in the same tier. They're not on the same level as this Philadelphia Eagles team, and I think it's fairly obvious. So I'm at a 12 out of 10.
Less.
Yeah, I'm more of an 8 out of 10 guy myself. You don't normally see a team with this many wins. If you're a conference if you're a division winner in the first, if you're the 2 seed, you don't normally see a team with as many wins as Green Bay has. But who have they beaten? The only playoff team I believe they've beaten is the Rams, and that was early when the Rams had all kinds of injuries and were not a good team. All their other wins are against teams that aren't here, that aren't really any good. I don't know. You're right about Jordan Love, Rob. This time last year, after he beat the Cowboys last year, he was like the Jaden Daniels of last spring. He was going to be this great quarterback, and Green Bay was going to rocket to the top of the league and all this stuff. And it didn't really happen. They ended up kind of similar to the Eagles, relying more on the run than on great passing stats. His completion percentage is below Jalen Hurts. I went back and watched the opener today. Everybody says, "Oh, you can't tell anything about that. They're 2 different teams." They're not 2 different teams. There are some things that are different. Both teams have kind of settled into their identities in the last 4 months, but they're not different teams. The Eagles will start almost the exact same lineup they started in Brazil September 6th, and the Packers might be maybe 2 guys different on offense, one of them being Christian Watson, who, as you noted, got hurt, and maybe 3 or 4 guys on defense because of Jair Alexander and a couple other things. But they're not really 2 different teams. I mean, and a lot of the things that happened in that opener are things that sort of manifested themselves as the season went on for both teams. And even though the Eagles didn't win that going away, you can point to the 2 turnovers in the first 2 possessions as a big part of that. And, Nakobe Dean dropped a pick 6. The Eagles had the ball for like 7 minutes at the end of the game, gave it back with 30 seconds left. The Eagles are the better team, and that doesn't mean they'll win, but I'm pretty confident. I'm a good 8 out of 10, I would say.
Texans also beat the Packers also beat the Texans.
You're right. I was thinking of that when I said that. Yeah, I should have. I was thinking about NFC teams, and you're right. They also beat the Texans, but a lot of their wins are like Miami and
Indianapolis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The Jaguars.
Right.
Like, they look great. They look great against
the Panthers. As the Eagles also beat the Panthers, but it wasn't like they were out there. I think the Eagles actually played a tougher schedule, except for the divisional games that the Packers had, which were against the two top teams. But I think the outside the division schedule was a lot tougher for the Eagles than it was for the Packers.
PY confidence level 1 to 10 going into this game.
12.
You too?
Good Lord.
Copied my answer,
Well,
bro.
no,
I've never
because
seen
Christian-
these two people agree
Look,
before. I'm
It
scared.
doesn't happen
Doesn't
often,
happen.
but when it does, that's what things are in the right direction because, like, Christian Watson has torn his ACL. There's no Jair Alexander. They haven't really beaten anyone all season. Like they beat, to quote Chris Broussard, tomato cans all season. Like that's who they've beaten. And they're this is like the Packers last year. No, the Packers were like running off like win after win against like big teams last year. Like that's just not the case. And who the hell knows if Jordan Love is playing or in what condition he's playing?
Yeah.
Like this is also not the team that the Packers faced in week 1. This is an Eagles team that has embraced the running game. Avonte Maddox isn't running out there and getting like wrecked for 150 yards. That's not happening.
Yeah, that was part of the opener. I did see that on the rewatching that. Is it Jaden Reed, the number 11 for the Packers?
Yeah.
He was all over Maddox. He
was baptizing him in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit live in Brazil.
Yeah.
And Jaden Reed hasn't done a damn thing since either.
Well, he was their leading receiver, but he didn't have the kind of year that game. He had a 33-yard end-around touchdown against the Eagles, which I don't think has happened since then. And he had a couple of long catches. In fact, Jacobs really wasn't. You didn't notice if you're rewatching that game. You didn't notice Jacobs until the second half, well into the second half. Mm-hmm. He really wasn't their focal point at all. But he is now. And their defense, they're pretty good against the run, but they're not real good against the pass without Jair Alexander. They really struggle. Corey Ballantyne and guys like that,
So I'm going to be.
Yeah, well,
I agree. With Les, I'll put it at an 8. I'm very confident, very very confident. I'm a little surprised. I think a lot of people are overlooking just how good this Packers team is. I'm going to throw out, and now you guys know me. I'm not a stats person, but if I'm going to back up my argument, John, my good friend over on Twitter, Johnny Page, he put out overall team statistics for the Packers, and when it comes to their offense, points per game, they're ranked number 8th in the league with 27.1 yards per game. They're number 5, 370.5 points per play. They're 0.448, which is 5th. Yards per play, also 5th at 6.1. When you go over to their defense, their opponent's points per game ranked 6th, 19.9. Opponent yards per game, they're ranked 5th, 314.5. Opponent's points per play is 6th in the league, 0.326, and then yards per play 5.2, which is ranked 5th. So they're ranked top 10 in every one of those categories. Now you're going to say, oh well, how about when they played against good teams? Yeah, they lost. They were 0-5 against the top 3 NFC contenders. But if we go back to the actual schedule and actual games, all right, they lost to us week 1, right? 29-34, one-score game. The Vikings in week 4, 29-31. Against the Lions in week 9. That was the first one that wasn't a one-score game. That was 14-24. If you go over to the next matchup against the Lions, 31-34. And then if you go to that week 17 game against the Vikings, 25-27. So it's not like they're out completely getting blown out. These are one-score games that they're right there with us. So like I don't think they are as good as us or the Vikings or the Lions, but I don't think they're like far off. And if you are, again, I'll throw out some more stats here. If you're looking at weeks 11-16, which is the later part of the year, and keep in mind also, I want to throw this in there, Jair Alexander hasn't been playing for them for over a month. The last time
he played 7 games, I think.
Yeah, he played 7 games. He hasn't played with them since November. So since November, he factoring the fact that he hasn't been playing with them since November, if you look at DVOA, so if DVOA is analytical statistic that factors in difficulty of opponents, right? Their offensive DVOA from weeks 11-16 is ranked 3rd 30.5%, while their defensive DVOA in that time is ranked second, negative 18.6%. So they have still been playing really, really high ball, even without Jair Alexander. Now, again, the points that you make out about Christian Watson not being there, that's a big loss, absolutely a big loss. So factor that in now. And then also, we don't know the status of the injury, the elbow injury to Jordan Love. He's going to play, but how much is going to affect him? We don't know. So like that is going to be a huge factor. So absolutely, that's why my confidence level is at an 8. But I'm also not going to like disrespect them and say, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. Like they are a good team for a reason. I think that we need to really pay attention to what they have been doing. And it would be one thing if they were just getting outclassed by the Lions or the Vikings or by us, but they weren't. They were like right there with us. So I mean, like I think they're a team that got better as the season went on and have found their footing late in the year.
Mm-hmm.
And they
did lose to the Bears yesterday.
Yeah. They lost to the Bears, a division opponent, but losing to the Bears was significant. But again, Jordan Love was out for most of that game. They had to go with Malik Willis.
Yeah.
And then Christian Watson being out. Now, I will say with Watson out, like if you were to ask me, they're 4 wide receivers. So they don't have a true number 1 wide receiver, right? Like it's all like just good players. But if you were to ask me, if I were to rank the wide receivers, Christian Watson would be 4th out of those 4 in my opinion.
And that's reflected in their stats. He didn't. He catches. He gets the long ball, but he doesn't get anything else. It's almost like Quez Watkins stats or something.
Exactly, and he drops a lot of passes, and like so, I think Dontavian Wicks is actually very underrated. He's a really good weapon. I think Jaden Reed is their best wide receiver in terms of being a dangerous weapon. And then we've seen Romeo Doubs be a solid and reliable receiver. So it's not like the 3 of them are nobodies. You know what I mean? So like, and then obviously we know what Josh Jacobs can do. So again, I'm very confident though, but I'm not going to overlook this team and say it's a cakewalk. They are a good team. They're a very good team. The numbers show it. The film shows it. I don't think we can go into this matchup, pounding our chest and being overconfident that it's going to be an easy game and there's no way possible we lose. I think we need to be prepared for it. This turns out to be another 1-score game in the end. We shouldn't be surprised by that at all. So I don't want to overlook any part of the Packers. I want to get to some of the chat because it definitely been going off. Habib also says Josh Jacobs is a beast, so we need to slow him down. Mr. Wing says Eagles are only limited by coaching and lack of offensive adjustments in the game, and Fangio playing cover 2 in the red zone versus a 2-minute drive. Mr. Wing is also someone who has hated Sirianni from the start, so of course he's going to see lack of coaching, but I disagree with that part of it. Now, if you were to compare our offensive coaching to Matt LaFleur, give the edge of the Packers. Matt LaFleur is an amazing coach, but I wouldn't say we're limited by coaching. Brian Daly says, agree, there are no glaring concerns, but you truly never know what can happen in a playoff game in the NFL. Absolutely, Brian. Ryan Swope says, Les, Barkley's going to run this team, but I honestly think Hurts has to get right around 230 passing yards per game if they want to win the Super Bowl, even when the rushing game is carrying them. Do you agree? Why or why not? What do you think, Les?
I don't know if I have a number, but I do think they need to have a viable passing game. I think they got a little too comfortable there in the middle part of the season with throwing for 100 yards and stuff. That is not a great way. You can win that way if your defense is lights out and you really do run the ball extraordinarily well, but that's not the easiest way to win. I do think they need to throw for over 200 yards, I would say, and I think he should be able to do that against this team. They do have Xavier McKinney, and their secondary isn't bad, but Keyshawn Nixon, it's not a great secondary. They gave up a lot more passing yards than they got as a team. But to playoffs overall, I think they need to be a little more balanced. I don't think they're going to run for 250 yards against a lot of teams in the playoffs. I think teams will will game plan that, and you're playing good teams. I mean, that's why it's the playoffs. You know, you don't get to see the Giants again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ryan, I kind of agree with you. I don't know if it has to be 230, but it has to be more than what they were doing there for a while when they just weren't, when they were looked like Woody Hayes' Ohio State team or something.
Yeah. Joe Horkowski also says no Watson, no Jair, 70% love. Only way Eagles lose is by beating themselves. Habib says he acknowledges Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed got us pretty good
Yeah,
last
he had
week.
a hell of a game.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs or even Jordan Love making plays outside the pocket. Bobby DeCreccio, he says a lot of fans I've spoken to in the city are overlooking this game. I'm not taking the Packers for granted. This will be a close game. I'm with you, Bobby. I'm not gonna. I think it's gonna be a close game. I do agree that the Eagles are going to win, but it's going to be closer than people are letting on. Bob Brinkman says we stop Henry so we can stop Jacobs. Make Love beat you. He doesn't have enough weapons. And then we got some more coming down here. And then Habib, another good point. He says Hurts did have 3 turnovers, so we won't be seeing that. Yeah, hopefully we won't be seeing it.
Well, that was something. Rewatching that game that really stood out. That was probably his worst game turnover wise. Now, one of the turnovers wasn't his fault. The fumble came on a snap off his chest when he was looking to make an adjustment, and Cam Jurgens snapped the ball off of him before he saw that it was coming.
Yep.
But the 2 interceptions were horrible, and one of them came on the play after he should have been intercepted but wasn't. You know, he was just chucking it all over the place that night. And, he talked. I was impressed. I went back and also listened to the press conference afterward, and he was hard on himself. And he talked a lot that night about, we can't win this way. And he was right. That was brutal. It was he got a lot of yards, and he threw his longest touchdown pass of the season, but it was too much danger, too much recklessness there. Absolutely. And he has not had a game like that since then, really.
Nope.
And certainly since the bye week, he has not even come close to turning the ball over a bunch of times. So, that was kind of my point on the opener. It was a close game only because the Eagles kept turning the ball over.
Yeah.
In terms of the play up front, I don't think it was that close.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jay does make a point here. Jay Koch, I wanted to counter to this. He says there are too many big time playmakers on this offense to look pedestrian, especially on their scripted plays in the first quarter. Same as last, the players make this offense happen and not the coaches on offense. I see your point to a degree. Yeah. What I will say is one, and I'm pretty sure I touched on this a few weeks ago, is you have to give credit to Kellen Moore and company and Jeff Stoutland, absolutely. What they've done with this run game and the scheming behind it is absolutely magnificent. So they have to get credit for that. Like having Saquon Barkley is an attribute, and also factors into that because Saquon can run anything. As opposed to you guys know I love Miles, I love DeAndre Swift, but to be able to have a guy like Saquon who can do anything is it helps out coach scheme things up. However, you got to give them credit. The amount of run designs that they incorporate now is phenomenal. So they get on that end, they get kudos from me. When it comes to passing, I think you can have an argument and that it's still lacking a little bit of creativity and reliant too much on ISO routes, which 100%. What I find interesting.
Let me jump in real quick on that, Chuck. So yesterday you saw how they moved the pocket early with Tanner McKee and gave him really simple, easy completions. Why can't they do that at the start of a game with Jalen Hurts? They're not great. You're not going to play the whole game like that because you're limiting what you can do, and you're not going to get a long completion that way. But why not start out like that and get a first down and settle into the game?
I agree. I think that was a great observation. A lot of people were talking about that, and I honestly think that not only will they start to incorporate more of that into the playoffs, I feel like I feel like Kellen Moore has kept stuff in the bag for the playoffs. I really do think so because I forget who I was talking to, and they made a great point. I think it was actually on a pod, so I forgive me if my memory is a little fuzzy, but they were talking about how success in the playoffs for teams, a lot of it has to come from, you can have an identity as you know throughout the regular season. When it comes to playoff times, you have to be able to show that you can alter that. You can zag when playoff teams are going to now zig. Like if you have a playoff team, they are going to now hone in on what your strengths are. Are you able to adjust and be different from what you've been able to be for most of the year? Not to totally leave your identity, but to show that when needed, you can do more than just that. And I think that they were alluding to how that is a key to success. And if you see, like, there are plenty of examples, Super Bowl winning teams where throughout the regular season they were one thing, but then in the playoffs they became something totally different, where they improved in an area that was a weakness or whatnot. I always think back the 2006 Colts when they won the Super Bowl, which was Peyton's first Super Bowl. That defense wasn't good. When they got to the playoffs, that defense held Larry Johnson to, like, I forget how many yards, but not a lot of yards. That defense was shut out, and it's just like it came out of nowhere. So it's just like you have to be able to do stuff outside of your comfort zone. I think having some stuff in the bag, I think that's part of what Kellen Moore is going to bring, and I think we're going to see more stuff that we haven't seen. I'm not, again, that's just an assumption. I'm just projecting and thinking. I don't know for sure, and I could be wrong, but I that's what would be my
good thought. It's a good thought.
Yeah. That'd be my guess. But
keep going, Chucks. Keep going, Chuck. I want to get to the
which
comment.
One? Which comment are you doing? I don't
this
know.
one. It took 22 minutes for someone to post it.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
is this serious, or is this somebody just wanting to get?
He thinks it. He really thinks it.
Yeah. Well, 2 games is a hell of a sample size.
I'm sorry.
Does anybody remember Nick Foles and 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions?
Exactly. Yeah, that lasted long.
We've been around the block too many times. I like Tanner McKee. I think he should be the backup next year instead of Kenny Pickett. I would think really long and hard about trading him if they had offers for Tanner McKee. I'm not sure I would want to let go of him for anything that wasn't tremendous.
I agree. I agree, Les.
But no,
he was up and down in that game. Like
two games is not even 2 whole games. 1 game and part of another game does not tell you that he's better than Jalen Hurts. That's ridiculous. And anybody that says that is really not serious.
I'm sorry that he had an okay game against like the 3rd worst team in the NFL. I'm sorry. Like that does nothing. That does nothing for me. Like, what are we doing here? And this is my issue when it comes to backups, because we love them here in Philadelphia. Yeah. He stood in the pocket and he threw passes. Golly gee, that's awesome. He also did it against the freaking Giants. And after the first quarter, like, he was electric in that first drive. But after that, like, he was up and down. Like, he had some moments, and then he had some not great moments. Like, he should have had 3 interceptions that game because he threw it right to guys. And, like, I thought McKee played well, but, like, this notion that, like, oh, he's better than Hurts. Why is he better than Hurts? Is it because he just stands there and he throws?
Touchdown passes thrown. And because the Eagles don't really play that way with Hurts, because they have Barkley when Hurts is quarterbacking, they get down to the red zone and they don't typically throw touchdown passes. They
6 is 6 in my book. I don't care how it goes.
Exactly.
I understand.
It is. It absolutely is. But people
the understanding
love for the quarterback to throw touchdown passes. They also, not to put too fine a point on it, I'm not going to impugn Brian here because I don't know him
Please
at all.
do.
People like a 6'6" white guy who dropped.
There you go. I didn't want to say it, Les. I didn't want to say it, but exactly. Oh my God, he's white. He stands in the pocket. Oh.
I mean, I think I say that stuff. I say that kind of stuff every week. Like, look at Joe Burrow on Saturday night. He cleared concussion protocol in 5 freaking seconds because it was on national TV, and the NFL wanted to somehow, some way get the Bengals into the playoffs.
Yep. Now, I don't know about
apparently Jalen Hurts has the worst concussion in the history of concussions, and on paper at least, still hasn't cleared the protocol. Like,
Well, he hasn't cleared just because of semantics. That's really it.
Yeah, I really think I don't know for sure, but I think it's a matter of them deciding that he's going to go out and practice. And
Yep.
then it's like, oh, he checked that box off. Well, okay, the protocol. It's like when you're going through things on a form online and you haven't hit confirm yet,
Yep.
I mean, so you haven't finished the form, have you?
Uh,
I mean, no, he hasn't. But there's no indication whatsoever that he's in dire straits or that he was in dire straits last week or anything like that. But we were talking about Tanner McKee, and I'd like having him around. He's not better than Hurts. 10 years from
I'm
now,
surprised it
knows?
took 22 minutes. I mean, I know we're in minute 35 now, but I saw the comment.
I knew it was coming.
At
I
minute
knew it.
22. I'm shocked it took 22 minutes.
Well, it
Shocked.
all depends on when Brian was going to come in, because Brian hates Hurts, so like it all depended on when he was going to get in the chat. But yeah,
is he a friend of yours, or do you just know him?
No, I don't
because
know.
He
I
listens
just
to our
know that
show.
No,
I
he
just
just comes in every week and he just shits on Jalen. That's all he does.
There's a whole lot. I was surprised. Last night I was watching that Vikings Lions, and I was on social media, kind of giving my opinions about, I don't think Mailata and Johnson would have this much trouble with the Vikings edge rushers, blah, blah, blah. And the fans who were responding, so many of them were negative about Hurts. It was like, oh, we've got Jalen Hurts. There's a segment of the fan base that thinks he's the worst quarterback in the world. And I don't get it, but it's, even out on the post-game show, I caught a little snippet of Ron Jaworski talking about the deja vu when you guys are too young, but all the fans wanted to play Joe Pisarcik when Ron Jaworski was the Eagles quarterback.
Yeah. I heard about
It's
that.
always greener on the other side until it's not.
Right, guys? And it goes with, I mean, especially the quarterback, with every position here with the Eagles. It's always greener. Ron is always greener.
Yeah.
So with the running backs, wide receivers, every position, that's the sentiment. But I hear you. Jay also says, I can't understand why they hardly ever call running back screens with Barkley and Jurgens pulling. Either side would work with the best O-line in the league. Yeah, I can't tell you. That's a good point. We all wondered that. I mean, we haven't been a great screen team in God knows how long. And there's an art to doing it. And I'm not saying Saquon can't do it. But part of it is the running backs, part of it is timing with the quarterback, part of it is with the offensive lineman. So with screens, there's such a boom bust kind of play where if one thing goes wrong, it's dead in the water. It's so dead in the water. So I hear you. I would love more. I don't know if they're seeing something in practice where they just don't have confidence running it. I don't know.
I don't know either, but that is interesting. I have thought about that as well.
Yeah. I hear you. I would love to see. Well, I mean, maybe that's part of what we see more of in the playoffs.
Could be.
Could be. Jay also says, "Give me a first for McKee, or it's no bueno." Yeah, wow. Essentially, it's going to.
Nobody's going to do that, but I'm kind of in the same boat. What if the guy turns out to be really good? You don't want to just.
If Hurt. I'm calling
Favre, Atlanta traded Brett Favre.
Yep.
They thought they made a great deal, and.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and it's. I think McKee is going to have a lot of value as a backup for us. So, I would keep him with us as long as possible. So,
I think you're going to get some serious offers for Pickett in the offseason because, whether it's a starter or whether it's as a backup quarterback, look at the Dolphins right now and what they're going through with Tua and all their uncertainty. He can have some real value for a team like that who needs a backup, mainly because the quarterback can't stay healthy.
And that's a good point. But the team you saw yesterday playing against the Eagles, obviously they're going to draft a quarterback or do something to get a quarterback, but they don't have a backup. I mean, Drew Lock, Tanner McKee was a much better quarterback than Drew Lock was yesterday. And I know Locke had an incredible game the game before, but I don't know what the hell that was about. But I just don't think I think McKee is pretty darn good, and I would keep him around. Yes,
I think Locke he's the type of quarterback. He has one really outstanding game a season if he gets opportunity, and then that's it. It's part of his repertoire. I don't know. I don't understand it either because remember Locke he beat us in Seattle.
Yeah,
Yep.
on that ridiculous drive. Yeah,
Yeah, crazy drive.
that defense.
Little
If
bit.
you watch that drive, the guys you see chasing receivers aren't on the team anymore.
On the team anymore. Yeah.
Bradbury and Leonard, the
Leonard.
linebacker, and
Yeah.
it's all guys like that,
Yep.
running around back
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. One more comment, then I have one more topic to get on before we let you go. Ashley M says Hurts getting an extended rest for concussion protocol, quote unquote, helped rest his legs. I understand the sentiment, Chucks, that wide receiver routes at time are simple. However, AJ and Smitty 1-on-1, do you need scheme? No, most of the time, and it's perfectly fine the way you do it that way. That's why I don't have an issue. I think when they're that good, you keep it simple a lot of the times, and if it's a 1-on-1, especially if it's single high, you're throwing it deep to AJ. I 1000% have no problem with that. I think it's just that there are times where you can incorporate some routes where you scheme them open, because as we saw in 2023, if there's too much of that, of the reliance on the ISO routes and just them winning, sometimes when you face a good defense, you're gonna need to scheme these guys open. So you need to have it in your quiver. But I totally hear you. It's not a necessity, but it's something you want to at least have a little bit of.
Right.
And I think like Moore has thrown in wrinkles that we've seen. Like, okay, that's awesome. So like, it's not like I don't think they're completely not there. Like, he does some things that are good.
Yeah.
You just want to see more sometimes. That's all. It's just about.
I agree.
Yeah. So the one thing, the other takeaway, we'll get the final takeaways from the Giants game that we just played. Because I know like it's mostly backups, but like there were guys I wanted to give a shout out, and the first guy I wanted to give a shout out to is Jahan Dotson, who like
Yes.
has been an afterthought, right? He's been an afterthought for most of the regular season, but I thought he showed that he is still a solid player, and I know he's playing against a bad Giants team, but like.
I stand up for Hurts a lot, but on this issue, I can't stand up for him at all. I have been convinced all season that he just doesn't want to throw the ball to the guy. They got him too late, and Hurts he hasn't been on the offseason with Hurts, and Hurts just won't look at him. And I think yesterday we saw that. I think the guy is just fine. I don't, obviously, with Smith and Brown, you're not going to, and Goddard, you're not going to throw him a lot, but you could throw it to Jahan Dotson 2 or 3 times a game instead of no times a game. You really could.
I just think it's a comfortability thing. Like you said, Les, like the offseason, you got him way too late. Like, look at what he had done like the last season, like Zacchaeus. Like, he had the connection with Zacchaeus. Like, they were they had moments during the season. Like, but I also think that's because they played together in the offseason. Like, obviously, they didn't play in the preseason, but like you got those reps in practice. And for Jalen, how he is as a quarterback is if he trusts you, he will throw it to you. Look at what they're doing with the tight end.
Oh, Calcaterra.
Calcaterra. Like there's massive trust there. Like, it doesn't matter what spot it is, he will throw it to him.
Yeah. And to that point, like it's not like we asked not a lot, but like it's not like we've seen the wide receiver 3 spot be completely ignored before. Like, Quez Watkins was thrown to a lot. For wide receiver 3. So like I don't think it's a matter of like we'd never use them. I think it's just in certain spots. So I think that trust thing is absolutely a factor. And I think that if you're looking for any solace in the trade, like we traded a 3rd rounder for him, or we swapped. I forget what it was. I think it was a 3rd for a 5th, but whatever. But we traded like a 3rd rounder for Dotson, which is, when you look back at it, it looks high. But just keep in mind where he's still on his rookie contract. He's got 2 more years.
Right.
Exactly.
So we have 2 more years. Like that's
cheap.
He'll be, he'll do whatever when Jalen gets the guys together in the offseason in Houston or wherever, he'll do that next spring, and maybe things will be different. I think they should be, certainly. But overall, I just wanted to make the point before I go that overall, the backups, I was surprised. I really was. I know it was the Giants, and I know the Giants.
But that was their
spirit is dead, but even so, it was starters against 2nd and 3rd string guys, some of whom hadn't really played all year. And it was a very solid game. They didn't commit penalties. They didn't make stupid mistakes. It was really it shows that they have good coaches, good position coaches.
Yes.
And it shows that these guys, the roster is really, really deep. that there are a lot of guys that can play on this team that don't get to play a lot. The offensive line didn't do very well running the ball, but they were beautiful in pass protection. They were really tremendous.
They did a good job. And they're playing against, like you said, they're playing against starters. Kayvon Thibodeau was out there. Like, come on.
Yes.
So, yeah, absolutely. PY and Brinks, like, do you have any last minute takeaways?
No, I'm going to use my time. I'm putting the bed. I barely watched the Giants game yesterday.
Okay.
Like,
It was,
I watched a lot of it.
I went into it thinking I would probably do something, go watch Red Zone or something, but the backups played so well that it kept, I was
watching them. I was absolutely watching because I was curious. I was absolutely.
I thought Shipley
I'm going
played very well.
I'm going to take my time to just shred New York.
Losers.
So Mara comes out today, and a reporter asks him, like, how long is it going to take to get this thing back on the right track? He's like, I hope not long, because I'm pretty sick and tired of losing, or something of that nature. I don't have. As he's announcing, he's bringing back Brian Dable and general manager Joe Shane.
I texted my Giants buddy today, who I went to the game with, and I just texted him, haha, this morning. Because he was asking me about the game, and he's like, "You think they get rid of him?" I said, "There's zero chance. They're gonna keep both, with the assumption that they're gonna draft a quarterback, and they're gonna use Dable's Josh Allen connection." You're like, well, once they get his guy, he's gonna be okay.
Well, I'm a little confused about. You keep hearing they don't want to get rid of Shane because they had such a wonderful draft this year. Well, of course they drafted really high, and they got a great receiver, but what else?
It's the same thing when they drafted Saquon. They put Saquon with the second pick overall, and they didn't give him.
It's okay. They can take a Penn State running back at 3 this year.
6th overall.
Yeah.
They didn't believe they have 6th overall, and they have They might as well have me out there playing quarterback.
There was this amazing piece. I don't know if you guys read Defector or not, but there was this hilarious piece by a guy, Barry Pachetsky. He's kind of a famous writer in New York, about what it's been like being a Giants fan this season. And it starts off really slow. It starts out in the Middle Ages explaining about this castle and this king who had – it's a true story, apparently. This king who invited all these people to his castle, and they were on the ground floor. And it just so happens that the way they set up sanitation back then is that there was – below the ground floor was this giant pit that was the latrine pit. And it had been there for quite a while. And they got all these people in there, and behold, the floor collapsed, and 100 people or more, fell into the latrine pit, and a lot of them suffocated and died in what you have in a latrine pit. And the end of the thing was like, and that is what it's been like being a Giants fan this season.
Oh God, they're in such bad shape. Oh boy. Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't understand either. I would have Dayball is one thing because I don't know if he's a good coach or not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's impossible to say. Yeah,
but Shane,
I can understand bringing him back.
Yeah,
I can. I don't agree with it, but okay. But how can you let that idiot run your team and pick players?
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, out of their draft, the only ones I've seen, obviously Neighbors was a home run. The only one out of their draft that I see that are being really good were Theo Johnson and Tyrone Tracy. Yeah. No one has really stand out to me unless if I'm missing something.
Right.
Phillips and Tyler Nubin, they haven't. I think they've been disappointing. So I don't.
Right.
Great, you got Tyrone Tracy, who awesome. Who I think is I love Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
But if their reasoning is, oh, they had a great draft, you had 3 contributors out of that draft class.
And this is the worst season in the history of the franchise. The first time you've never won a division game in the entire season. And the only thing I can see is changing GMs is kind of a big deal. For any team, because that means you change scouts, you change so much in your organization. And they just did that with Dave Gettleman. The more times you do that, the more chaos and the more failure you invite, because you just can't have that level of turnover constantly and have it work out. But that said, 3 years now for Shane? And he's the guy that gave Daniel Jones the contract.
Yep.
I just can't make a case for this working out well. I just can't.
Yeah, I agree.
They also didn't pay Xavier McKinney either. Everyone wants to talk about Saquon, and deservedly so. They let Xavier McKinney walk too.
They got a couple guys around the league that are playing really well, other than those two. I can't remember off the top of my head now. But, yeah, they have not made good decisions. And then in Dallas, you have Jerry. He refuses to say whether he wants to fire Mike McCarthy. He doesn't want to fire
And then they're
Mike
letting
McCarthy,
him.
but he also doesn't want to give him a new contract. And so the Bears have asked to talk to Mike McCarthy now.
I know.
I would just
I
get
forget
out.
who
I would
this
just
situation. How do you, how can you
Even the
possibly,
Dallas blog is talking about it less, where they're just like, oh, we love Mike. We'll let him do what he wants, like thinking nobody's going to be interested. And then the Bears call his and then the Bears call his bluff.
That's just such strange.
Dallas being Dallas.
Yeah.
I don't think Dallas has a coaching problem. I don't think their main problem is
yes,
coaching.
they do have a coaching problem. He's not good.
McCarthy is just mid. He's not. He's
no one special.
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
The problem
with
with
a lot of games in this league, and Mike Zimmer's an excellent defensive coordinator.
Zimmer's fine.
Zimmer's
fine. Zimmer's good. Mike McCarthy is just like listen. He's
just a guy right now. Like we all know this. Like he was made by Aaron Rodgers.
He won a Super Bowl when he had Aaron Rodgers in Aaron Rodgers' prime.
Yeah, exactly.
All the nutty stuff about Aaron Rodgers aside, Aaron Rodgers in Aaron Rodgers' prime was a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah. And I remember there was an article, and I don't mean to go too deep in a tangent, but like I remember reading in depth about their relationship, and Mike McCarthy held that team back a lot during Aaron Rodgers' prime.
I think people in Green Bay thought they should have gone more than once, to the Super Bowl during that era. Yeah,
I still remember after they got rid of Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy said, well, now that Kellen's gone, we're going to be a real football team. We're going to run that football because that's what I like to do. And then proceeded to be one of the worst and least at running the football. Like they're running it the least amount, and they're awful at it. And what do you know? The second year in a row, they're the worst team running the football because they're like, let's pound the rock with Ezekiel Elliott. Like, what are we doing?
They want to run the ball, but they just ignore.
They don't like
position from.
But everybody should be really happy that Jerry's still there because given the facilities they have, the national profile that franchise has, everything that franchise has going for it. If someone competent were running it, it'd be a real problem for the rest of the league. So, this is
at the end of the day
working out well for
at the end of the day, the Cowboys will never be a successful run organization because at the end of the day, Jerry has it in his head that if he doesn't get the credit for things, he's not going to do them. For whatever reason, his understanding is that I'm not doing anything big in free agency because I don't get the credit. Meanwhile, everyone's given Howie Roseman the tap on the head for everything he does signings in the offseason. Like, so what does he not get? What free agent move doesn't Howie Roseman get credit for?
Did you see his comments? I think it was a couple of weeks ago. They were asking him about like Derrick Henry and like why didn't you try and sign him? Like you want to run the ball and be physical, and like that's probably the most physical running back we've seen in the last decade. He's like, he doesn't really fit like what we want to do on offense. Like on what planet does Derrick Henry like not fit?
He had said
you can put him in any offense. And
he had said that like they didn't have enough money for him, but then it's like Jerry. If you had just paid Dak and CD
a year earlier,
you would have had the money.
That's a big problem for them. He just doesn't understand the general manager's job. The Dallas writers pointed out yesterday when he said he didn't know about the $500,000 bonus that his quarterback that he benched was supposed to get. if he doesn't, that's a real problem. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, I bet you Howie Roseman knows about every $500,000 bonus in every Eagles contract.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's a liar.
Jerry
He's a
just thought
liar.
him not knowing about it, that's a perfectly wonderful explanation.
Not a liar. He's just stupid. He's old and he doesn't know anything.
I know.
I keep hearing people talk about
No
like,
one's that
oh well, he's
stupid
gonna
when it comes to $500,000.
he's gonna get Dion.
No one.
Yeah.
He will never hire any because when you open up, you know
takes
how
the
like
focus off of him. Yeah.
exactly. So you know when you go to the games, right, and they have the pamphlet and everything, and when you go through the Eagles pamphlet, like Jalen Hurts, you know, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, like all like Devontae Smith, the big guys, right? When you open the Cowboys, it's Jerry on the first page.
Yeah.
Jerry will never pick any head coach that will take the shine away from him. It's Jerry's team. And if it's going to take away from Jerry's vision of him being the star of the Dallas Cowboys, he won't sign him.
That's right. Yeah.
We all know.
If I'm McCarthy and I can get another job somewhere, I would just leave.
Especially Chicago, they've got good ownership and they've got a quarterback. You know, I'd go there if I were him.
Well, we'll see who Chicago wants. I mean, like if I'm in Chicago, I want Ben Johnson.
I would want something better than Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I'd want Ben Johnson.
But you know, they lost a lot of games to him when he was the Packers coach. So I think there's probably an outsized feeling in Chicago that he's a good coach. You know.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think if Buffalo doesn't if they underachieve again in the playoffs, I think it's a real possibility that they move on from McDermott, and that's where Ben Johnson's going to end up. I guess that's my bold prediction of the coaching
I didn't realize it was 5 straight AFC East titles they've won without getting to the Super Bowl. 5.
Well, they've had a lot of help from stinky play by the other 3 teams.
True, but 5 straight. I mean, even Andy Reid, you know, back in the day, people complained about the Eagles not winning the Super Bowl, but 5 straight, you got to win some playoff games and get to the Super Bowl eventually, you know.
Yeah, no, I
don't think they have a gimme. I don't think they have as big a gimme as they think with Denver.
Oh no, they don't.
That's a scrappy.
I mean, I'm rooting.
I think Denver wins.
Well coached.
I hope.
I don't think Denver wins, but I do think it'll be a good game, and I think it's a tough wild card round. You know, the bad teams were so bad this year that there's things were so stratified that there's a lot of good teams. You know, and I'm not saying this very well, but it wasn't as evened out as it usually is. It was more top
heavy.
Yes, even the teams that just got into the playoffs are pretty good teams.
There was a stat I saw. I don't know. I forget who it was from, but they were saying that there was some kind of record or like one of the most 10-win teams in league history this season. So like that speaks to it being top heavy. Absolutely. So yeah. Anything else? I mean, we can all head out here in a minute or two, but like anything else for the wild card weekend you guys want to talk about? I mean, the
only game that I am not decided on in either my spread against the spread wager or an outright winner is I have no idea what to make of the Tampa Bay Washington game.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Vikings Rams, but go ahead.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I don't know what to make of them.
I think the old Vikings got exposed big time last night.
Oh, they did. And Darnold was horrendous. I couldn't believe how bad he was. You know,
turned back into that pumpkin. Midnight's coming.
Detroit's defense played better than I expected, given all the injuries. But there were guys open. He just wasn't hitting. You know,
he missed Jefferson twice in the end zone.
Yeah, at one point Jefferson had 3 catches on 9 targets. And he doesn't drop a lot of passes, you know.
Yeah, he was seeing ghosts.
So,
but Tampa Bay, Washington, that's going to be in Tampa Bay, right? Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Sunday night.
I kind of like Baker Mayfield there, but maybe
come on, Baker, let's go, baby.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm trying to save all my takes because for those who are listening and don't know. Pete and I will be doing an NFL show. We have a new NFL show on A2D Radio. It is pre-recorded, it's not live, but it will be coming out Wednesday morning. So I'm trying to keep all my takes for that show. So if you want to hear
finally, I have something to listen to on my way in.
That's right.
If you want to hear what I have to say about the NFL, we have to say about the NFL wildcard, tune into that. But yeah, it's going to be on Wednesday morning. We're excited. But yeah, it's NFL playoffs. I have a lot of, I guess you could say, like
Opinions.
Give us
I
something,
have a lot of
Chuck. Come
opinions.
on, man. You're just gonna make this new show and like
Well,
not give us
I will
anything
say,
on here? Come on,
say,
bro.
okay, this is what I'll say. I think if you look at the NFC, and a lot of the NFC teams, especially success, is going to ride on the run game and the running backs, and that makes me really happy. Like if you look at Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Jameer Gibbs, Bucky Irving in Tampa, like these are star running backs that are going to have huge impacts on their team success. And I think it speaks to the resurgence of the running game, which a lot of people like Ted Nguyen of the Athletic just did an article. So go check it out. Like the resurgence of the running game is a real thing. So going back to that foundation, and I think it's going to be very exciting to see what these running backs can do in the postseason. And I think I'm excited to see it. I'm so excited, but especially Derrick Henry in the AFC. Like these running backs are going to have the spotlight on them, and they're going to. I think they're going to.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. So, all right. So that's all I've got, gentlemen. Great show. I mean, I think we're all excited for the Eagles coming up this week. I think we're all expecting a win, obviously, but I know I every time it's a playoff game, Eagles play a playoff game, I'm so stressed.
Who knows?
Yeah, because you never know. Oh my God, it's not like the NBA or MLB or NHL where it's a 7-game series. It's like one and done, and anything can happen. So it always stresses me out, but it's going to be exciting. To everyone listening, thank you for tuning in and for their support. Remember, our sponsor, Bosio's Bread in Mount Laurel. Make sure you mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. Catch all the other shows this week. Like I mentioned, Film Don't Lie, NFL show with me and Pete will be out Wednesday morning, and all the other shows that are here at the station. We appreciate all of your support for myself, for Brinks, for PY, Les, and all of us here at A2D Radio. We love you. Thank you. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully after an Eagles win. Go Birds!
Yes.
Go Birds!